flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Two emergency exits to my right, behind the town clerk, and also to my right on the door that you came in. There will be no oaths of office. The assessor will be sworn in the week of January 5th, 2015. Roll, please.
Councilman Delango?
Here.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Here.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Here.
Councilman Prodi?
Here.
And Supervisor Prodi.
Here. I believe the usual procedure to get through all the motions and for the appointments is to have each person read them, and we'll go from clockwise.
You don't have to?
You do. Let's do-
Motion to accept Town of Amenia Rules of Procedure, Committee Guidelines, and Procurement Policy.
Second.
I'll second it.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilman Delango?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilman Prodi?
Yes.
And Supervisor Prodi.
Yes.
Motion to establish date, time, place for scheduled town board meetings. Business workshops, the first Thursday of the month, 7 o'clock p.m. Regular meetings will be the third Thursday of the month, 7 p.m. The place will be the Town Hall, 4988 Route 22, Amenia, New York.
I'll second that.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilman Prodi?
Yes.
Councilman Delango?
Yes.
And Supervisor Prodi.
Yes. Motion to establish elected official salaries as noted. Supervisor, $23,076.48. Councilman, councilwoman, 4, $5,757. Sole assessor, $29,393. Justices, 2, $17,232.90. Town clerk, $28,973. Highway superintendent, $58,196.10.
I'll second that.
Discussion. Just want to note that the increases were for supervisor, justices, town clerk, and superintendent.
So noted in the minutes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilman Delango?
Yes.
Councilman Prodi?
Yes.
And Supervisor Prodi.
Yes.
Motion to appoint Denise Fitzpatrick Esquire as town attorney. Denise Fitzpatrick Esquire, attorney to the town general, $180. Litigation, $210. Paralegals, $80.
A second.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilman Delango?
Yes.
Councilman Prodi?
Yes.
And Supervisor Prodi.
Yes.
Sure, I get the big one.
That's
Motion
Luck of
to
the
accept appointments and salaries as noted. A, appointments with salaries. Bookkeeper, Karen P. McLaughlin, 20 hours a week, $26 per hour. Alternate per diem bookkeeper, Lorna Sherman, $25 an hour. Bank reconciliation clerk, Jennifer Janes, bookkeep office, 3 hours per week at $15.30. Treasurer to the Water District, Katrina Gore Alexander, salaried at $3,887.90. Clerk to the Water District, Tara Mori, $3,887.97 salaried. Town Court Special Prosecutor, Hillary Thomas, $145 per hour. Attorney for Old Amenia Landfill, per contract, Kimberly Rhea, Esquire, $200 an hour. Budget Officer, Supervisor Consultant, $5,000. Secretary to the Supervisor, Annette Culligan, $15.30 an hour. Typist, part-time, Monique Montage?
Montaigne.
$15.30 an hour. Code Enforcement Officer, John Fenton, $37,739.96, salaried. Deputy Building and Fire Inspector, Mike Sigelkin, $25 an hour. Building Administrative Assistant, Katrina Gore-Alexander, $17.34 per hour. Register of Vital Statistics, Dawn Marie Klinger, $10 per transaction. Tax Collector, Dawn Marie Klinger, $4,635, salaried.
The next one we have to take out.
Okay, Deputy Tax Collector is out. Bank Reconciliation Clerk, Jennifer Janes, Town Clerk, 5 hours a month, $15.30 per hour. Planning Board Secretary, Larissa Delango, $15.30 an hour. Zoning Board of Appeal Secretary, Susan Metcalf, $16.80 per hour. Planning Board Chairman, Joseph Fontaine, $2,575.50, salary. Planning Board and ZBA Attorney, Dave Everett, $225 an hour. First Deputy Town Clerk, Kathy Whalen, $15.30 an hour. Second Deputy Town Clerk, Nancy Luther, $15.30 per hour. Assessor's Clerk, Donna Morrison, $15,125.58, salaried. Data Collector, John Lloyd, $17.25 per hour. Chief Police Constable, Christopher Klinger, $16.81 per hour. Police Constables, Jason Dean, Brett Johnson, and Dwayne Jackson, $15.45 per hour. Justice Clerk, Maureen Moore, for Honorable Moore, $16,266.96. Justice Clerk, Dawn Marie Klinger, for Honorable Divine, $16,266.96, salary. Highway Foreman, Andy Wheeler, $23.12 per hour, 40-hour work week. Highway Laborers, Alan Wilbur, $22.52 an hour, 40-hour work week. Darren Peterson, $21.16 per hour, 40-hour work week. Megan Chamberlain, $22.11 an hour, 40-hour work week. Arthur Perotti Sr., $21.61 per hour, 40-hour work week. Highway Office Manager, Judith Carlson, $15.76 an hour, a 15-hour work week. Groundskeeper Cleaner, John Culligan, $15.45 per hour, 20-hour work week. Recreation Groundkeeper Sean Howard, $18.02 per hour. Assistant Recreation Groundskeeper Charles Mayville, $15.30 per hour. Videographer, Public Access, Mike Flint, $5,952.49, salaried. Animal Control Officer Leslie Toth, $15.30 per hour. Grant Writer Michael Haggerty, $26.80 per hour. Summer Recreation Director Kathleen Howard at $18.36 per hour.
My second.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilman Perotti?
Yes.
Councilman Delango?
Yes.
And Supervisor Perotti?
Yes.
Motion, I got it. Motion to execute agreement to spend highway funds in 2015.
I'll second that. Oh, yeah, I'll second that.
Skip next.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilman Perotti?
Yes.
Councilman Delango?
Yes.
And Supervisor Perotti?
Yes.
Motion to make the following appointments without salaries. Deputy Supervisor Vicki Doyle, Town Historian Arlene Giuliano, Deputy Highway Superintendent Andy Wheeler, ZBA Chairman Leo Blackman, All Hazard Mitigation Victoria Perotti, Records Management Officer Dawn Marie Klingner.
We need to add Deputy Tax Collector Kathy Whalen and Nancy Luther.
I so add that to my motion.
And I'll second it.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilman Perotti?
Yes.
Councilman Delango?
Yes.
And Supervisor Perotti?
Yes. Motion to approve $1 million bonding for town officials, supervisor, deputy supervisor, secretary to town supervisor, bookkeeper and alternate bookkeeper each, town clerk and deputy clerk, tax collector and deputy tax collector, code enforcement officer and administrative assistant, justices 2, court clerks 2, constables 4, highway superintendent and deputy each.
I'll second it.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilman Perotti?
Yes.
Councilman Delango?
Yes.
And Supervisor Perotti?
Yes.
Motion to establish mileage reimbursement at a federal rate of .575 cents.
Second.
Councilman Delango?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilman Perotti?
Yes.
And Supervisor Perotti?
Yes.
Motion to continue contract with SBI Incorporated for water treatment to the Water District, $30,000 contractual.
I'll second that.
Councilman Delango?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilman Perotti?
Yes.
And Supervisor Perotti?
Yes.
Okay, I just like, I like the pause. I want a little pause. Motion to pay bills by resolution, utilities, postage meter, copy machine maintenance, rents, debt service, and employee benefits.
I'd second that.
Councilman Delango?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilman Perotti?
Yes.
And Supervisor Perotti?
Yes.
Motion to name M&T Bank Corp., Bank of Millbrook, and Salisbury Bank and Trust Company the official town depositories for town funds.
Second?
Councilman Delango?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilman Perotti?
Yes.
And Supervisor Perotti?
Yes. Motion to designate the Millerton News as the official town newspaper.
Second that.
Councilman Delango?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilman Perotti?
Yes.
And Supervisor Perotti?
Yes.
Motion to authorize all boards to use tape recorders for aid with minutes, with the understanding that the tape does not replace typed and accepted minutes.
Second that.
Councilman Delango?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilman Perotti?
Yes.
And Supervisor Perotti?
Yes.
Motion to accept town board auditors as noted. General Fund, 2, Councilwoman Doyle, Councilman Delango. Highway Funds, 2, Councilwoman Hitzelberger and Councilman Perotti. Water District, 2, Councilman Perotti and Councilman Delango.
Second that.
Councilman Delango?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilman Perotti?
Yes.
And Supervisor Perotti?
Yes.
Motion to accept town board appointments to standing committees as noted. Recreation, Perotti and Doyle. Amenia Housing Commission, Perotti and Hitzelberger. Wastewater, Delango and Hitzelberger. Enhancement, Doyle and Delango. Conservation Advisory Council, Doyle and Hitzelberger. Emergency Response and Safety, Perotti and Hitzelberger. Ethics, Delango and Perotti. Holiday of Lights, Doyle and Delango. Water District, Delango and Perotti. And Trail of the Train, Doyle and Hitzelberger. Alternate to standing committees is Supervisor Perotti.
Second that.
Discussion. Holiday of Lights is not a committee.
It's always been considered a committee. It's not going to be a committee anymore.
I think that was just a typing thing. It was never made into a committee. It was just an enhancement event. And the reason they were calling it a committee is because it included people like the fire company, the library,
Well, they do.
101 different groups, but it's not a town committee.
Well, as long as I've been on the board, 9 years, it's been a committee.
I guess we'd have to look back and formally find out if we ever had people sign up as a committee. As far as, I can't remember myself. I know we just informally met every October sort of thing as part of the enhancement in the library council coming together to do that, and the firemen. Does anybody else recall if that was a formal committee or just part of the enhancements activities? Doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, if anybody wants to volunteer to do it, you guys okay with doing the holiday lights?
I mean, what's the
Downside?
downside or upside to being a committee?
Actually, the same people are on both, so I don't see what difference it makes.
It just doesn't exist as a committee.
Well, we can look into that.
Okay, well, we can table the holiday of lights for now and just take care of the rest of them.
Okay.
Okay, I'll second that
So
with
table.
crossing out the holiday of lights for now temporarily and looking into it for further authorization.
Councilman Delango?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes?
Councilman Brody?
Yes.
And Supervisor Brody?
Yes.
Is it my turn? Motion to designate emergency interim successors, 3, for Dutchess County Emergency Response. Those council members would be Mike DeLango, Stephen Perotti, and Vicki Doyle.
Second.
Councilman Delango?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes?
Councilman Brody?
Yes.
And Supervisor Brody?
Yes. Motion to appoint Deputy Supervisor Vicki Doyle to represent the town of Amenia at the 2015 Association of Town Meetings in New York City, with Supervisor Perotti as alternate.
Second.
Councilman Delango?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilman Brody?
Yes.
And Supervisor Brody?
Yes.
Motion to authorize the supervisor's bookkeeper to do pre-audit functions of vouchers, including math accuracy, checking for sales slips, delivery slips, and paid bills by municipal employee receiving goods.
I'll second that.
Councilman Delango?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes?
Councilman Brody?
Yes.
And Supervisor Brody?
Yes.
Motion to authorize a charge of $20 on each check tendered as payment and return for insufficient funds, including lost payroll checks.
Second.
Discussion.
Yes.
Last year it was 25.
And it had to be changed because it was the wrong amount. It was 20.
I couldn't remember that. Thank you.
Councilman Delango?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes?
Councilman Brody?
Yes.
And Supervisor Brody?
Yes.
Okay, let's go. Motion to authorize the supervisor's bookkeepers to make certificate of deposit and money market investments of available funds.
Second that.
Councilman Delango?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes?
Councilman Brody? And
Yes.
Supervisor Brody?
Yes.
Motion that Cedar and Company perform the annual cash audit procedures as required in Town Law, Section 123, and the Uniform Justice Court Act, Section 2019-A, and as described in the Fiscal Oversight Responsibilities of the Governing Board, published by the New York State Comptroller's Office. These procedures will be applied to the offices of the Supervisor, Town Clerk/Tax Collector, and Justice Courts for the year ended December 31st, 2014.
Second.
Okay.
Councilman Delango?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilman Perotti?
Yes.
And Supervisor Perotti?
Yes. Motion that all monthly bank reconciliations of town clerk and town bookkeeper be made by an outside party.
Second that.
Councilman Delango?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilman Perotti?
Yes.
And Supervisor Perotti?
Yes.
Motion that the monthly budget reports be distributed to all departments' heads and the complete monthly budget report be distributed to the town clerk for public viewing by town bookkeeper.
Second.
Discussion?
Yes.
This will include town board?
Yes.
Thank you.
Councilman Delango?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilman Perotti?
Yes.
And Supervisor Perotti?
Yes.
Motion that the town board has the responsibilities to authorize the attendance of all officers and employees at conferences and training sessions as specified required per General Municipal Law 77-B.
Second.
Councilman Delango?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilman Perotti?
Yes.
And Supervisor Perotti?
Yes.
30, motion to accept 2015 schedules for the Zoning Board of Appeals and Planning Board.
Councilman Delango?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Do we need a
Did you
second?
get a second? Second.
Yes.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Jumping the gun.
I know it, just moving right through. Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilman Perotti?
Yes.
Supervisor Perotti?
Yes.
Motion to appoint/reappoint the following members to these committees/boards. Conservation Advisory Council, David Reagan, Chair, Arlene Giuliano, Mark Doyle, Michael Peak, Roger Russell, Maria Genovese, Anna Hayduke. Emergency Response Committee, Stanley Whitehead, John Kelleher, Christopher Howard, Virgil Shook, Marco D'Antonio, John Fenton. Enhancement Committee, Kevin Cassone, Tony Castro. Trail to Train Committee, David Reagan, Martin Grossman. Wastewater, Janet Reagan, Chair, Tony Robustelli, Allison Hale, Brad Rebellard, Martin Grossman, Marco D'Antonio, Darlene Reamer, Victoria Alexander. Water District Committee, May Jones, Chair, Bill Carroll, Martin Grossman, Marco D'Antonio, Norm Kaya.
We need to make one change here for Emergency Response Committee, be Dawn Klinger.
You're going to add Dawn Marie?
Yeah, she's the chair.
Okay. And I will say that Maria Genovese has moved and is no longer able to serve, sadly.
Okay.
Roger Russell has not been active also, so I think our active committee is Dave Reagan, Arlene Giuliano, Mark Doyle, Michael Peak, and Anna Hayduke.
That means we need that.
Now,
Ties for those open positions.
wastewater. Committee hasn't met in a long time.
Yeah, they have not.
Still a committee.
I understand that, but I mean, could it be time to maybe get some new blood in there and shake it up a little bit? You know, I mean, we haven't met in this long. There hasn't been a lot of talk about it. It is something that the town does need. I would like to, take that appointment out and, let's do a little research, a little rediscovery, see if we could get some new people on there. Or see if the people that are on there want to participate still.
Yeah. Well, you can't really remove people from the committee. You can ask them if they still want to participate. So if you want to, go ahead and do that. you
add
can.
to the list, right? There's
Right.
no limit to the number of committee members who can serve.
Okay. I mean, I just want to look at the committee in general, because it's been kind of defunct.
I think the first thing would be to call Janet and see if she's
Okay.
willing and able to continue serving, and then get her recommendations for moving it on to another level or creating some subcommittees that might be
Or,
working.
maybe we got to change the time or
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
because I would like to, really get some interest back in this again, because it's needed.
On the Water District Committee, Marco is the employee operator, so I would feel that it would be a conflict of interest to him being listed as a committee member when he's the employee, although I know he attends all of them, but it's just a conflict of interest point of order.
Well,
He is in the water district, right? I mean, he does live in the water district?
I don't
No.
think so.
No, it
No,
isn't.
he does not.
I mean, I
He's a town
do,
resident too.
And he is a town resident, but that's,
I mean, I do, he is technically an employee.
Yeah. Of that specific committee that overviews his employment. It's just kind of,
yeah. Well, I guess I'd go with that.
okay, we'll take him off as a committee member, but
He should be at least
He will
listed
probably
as a
be-
consultant.
can attend a committee
Well,
meeting.
you know, he goes to the committee meetings anyway, you know,
Yeah.
to give his report, so, you
Okay.
know.
It doesn't change his attendance
no, not at all.
or his
Okay.
role.
Okay, so if we're gonna take him off, we should be, I mean, we should at least replace him with somebody.
Well, what we can do is, we can advertise.
Yeah, like
Or
with,
we could do a press release with our
Kindly assist us with that.
our newspaper.
you know, because we're gonna also need to fill two positions on the Conservation Advisory Council, so. Must
We'll
all-
I'll
see
do
if
the
anyone-
same public announcement that we've done in the years past, that we started off 2014 with, accepting applications for all of
All of the
our
committees.
committees, and I'll go ahead and list them.
That
Okay.
sounds perfect.
That's good.
I mean, I would,
I'll have them due before February.
you know, Dawn, instead of just putting out, you know, the specific committees, why don't you just all committees and you keep a file, even if there's not a spot open, you know, at least we know.
Some people want specific committees, so she needs to list the ones where,
I'll
you know,
go
what the
through and
committees
list them
are.
all, because
Yeah.
I'm doing it as a press release. We can advertise it on our website, advertise it on television, and all of us can do a spread of mouth to let everyone know that.
Yeah, and then when
we're
the
glad
people
they
come in,
accepted.
they're gonna say, I'm interested in wastewater, I'm interested in conservation,
And
you
anyone
know.
that's watching this evening, you know, I always am accepting volunteer applications. I mean, that's how I got some of my newest members, just by stopping in the office inquiring about the positions. So I welcome anyone to contact me directly in the town clerk's office, by email, or see me on, you know, in the supermarket, and I can give you information about each of the committees. So
And
I
there's
welcome
also
everyone.
volunteer applications outside the town clerk's office, so if you're in the town hall and you're interested in serving on a committee, you can just pick up an application.
And on our website.
And the website.
Yep.
Good way to get some new blood in here.
Okay, so I have a motion made by Councilwoman Doyle.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Stephen. Councilman Delango?
Yes,
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes?
Councilman Prody?
Yes.
And Supervisor Prody.
Yes.
Victoria, you're
Motion that the town clerk maintains custody of all original records, minutes, contracts, grants, and documents from the committee's board and vendors.
Second.
Councilman Delango?
yes,
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilman Prody?
Yes.
And Supervisor Prody.
Motion to appoint Cedar and Company Linda Hannigan as CPA support.
I'll second that.
Councilman Delango?
yes,
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilman Prody?
Yes.
And Supervisor Prody.
Yes.
Motion to execute resolution number 1 of 2015, constables authorized to carry firearms.
You need to read the resolution. It's in your packet.
Constables authorized to carry firearms as identified resolution number 1 of 2015. Whereas the Town Board of the Town of Amenia adopted a Town Constable Local Law Number 3 of 2007 on 9/20/2007, and whereas pursuant to the Town Constable Local Law Number 3 of 2007 and Resolution Number 1 of 2010, the Town Board may adopt a resolution authorizing the Town Constables to carry firearms while carrying out his official duties, subject to the Town Constables complying with the noted conditions. And now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board hereby authorizes each of the following Town Constables to carry the firearm identified in this resolution while carrying out his official duties as Town Constable. Christopher Klinger, Glock 23, 40 caliber, Glock 42, 380 caliber. Jason Dean, Glock 23, 40 caliber. Brett Johnson, Glock 22, 40 caliber. SIG 1911, 45 caliber. Dwayne Jackson, Glock 17, 9 millimeter. Smith & Wesson 915, 9 millimeter. Be it further resolved that the authority granted to each Town Constable by this resolution shall be subject to each Town Constable complying with the following conditions. The Town Constable must possess a New York State license to carry the authorized firearm pursuant to the Penal Law 400 at all times, and must keep proof of such license on file at the Town Hall. The Town Constables must satisfactorily complete the Department of Criminal Justice Service basic course for peace officers with firearms and deadly physical force training, and such other training as Town Board under New York State law may require. The Town Constable must provide the authorized firearm at his or her own cost.
Second?
Discussion? Why so many different firearms?
Because they pay for them themselves, the town hasn't regulated which firearm they have to do, and we don't provide for them,
But we have to pay for the ammunition,
for their training.
for their training and their ammunition.
Yeah, just their.
It's just, I would like to see it a little more uniform. I mean, there's, 4 different ammunitions that we have to buy right now and purchase. There's 4 different training classes. There's 4 different holsters. There's a lot of difference going on. That's why the state police, the Dutchess County sheriffs, all municipalities basically stay with one basic firearm. I understand we're not supplying the firearm to them, but I just don't see the reason for so many firearms being listed.
Are we paying for it? We're paying for the ammunition?
We're paying for the ammunition.
And we're paying for the holsters?
Well, we're paying for the classes, but part of the training classes involves,
Well, what it is New York State requires them to do their annual training in firearms. That's a requirement. Then what happens is when the instructor is there, they're being qualified on the weapon. So as the men and women are doing their training, they all each have their individuals of what they're being trained on. So the weapon does not specifically matter in this instance. If you were to visit Dover, Pauling, and you go up to, different, where there's still towns, they each have to provide their own weapon. So there's nothing in our town law when they made the town law that required them to use a Glock or a Smith & Wesson.
Yeah.
That's something that, if you want to look at and try to tackle, that will be changing the town law. And then at that point, I'm sure an investment would then have to be made. And that would, we're going to want to sit down with council before we start
an
requiring.
investment, what?
Well, to make each individual to have to go out and purchase a specific weapon, you're going to want to speak with the council. Can we make that a
I
requirement?
mean, why
in
don't
our
we
law?
just, whatever firearms they have, just make it one of them?
Because as you can see, each of the gentlemen have something different.
I mean, basically, everybody has a 40 caliber, except for Dwayne Johnson, which is a 9 millimeter. I mean,
I would suggest that maybe perhaps if you want to sit down with the court and speak to the constables, call them in one day for a training. And, I understood you had some questions in regards
Yeah.
to their vouchers. I would welcome you to speak to them directly. New York State requires that they are certified on the weapons that they're carrying. So in our town law, at the time, the board never required that they carry a specific weapon.
but right now, we're approving, like Christopher, Glock 23, 40 caliber, Glock 42, 380 caliber. That's what we're approving. If we just say we're just going to approve the Glock 23, 40 caliber, that's,
I would encourage, obviously,
Okay.
discussion, but I think it would have been done prior to today and anytime last year.
Do you have anything to add to this discussion, or should we table it for
I mean,
No, we can't.
Yeah, if
We
you go
don't
to the
need to
podium,
table it.
this is not.
They have what they have.
Chief Klingner, Amenia Constable. What that is in case for some reason one firearm is out of order, you have another one to carry, or maybe you have it in the shop, the gun shop, something going on with it. It gives you a second firearm to carry at the time of your duty.
you would carry your Glock
If it
42
can-
380 as your primary carry weapon?
My 40 is my primary weapon. I have the 380 just in case. It is, you know, I did carry a 357. I figured I'd keep with a semi-automatic. That was my secondary gun. The other guys, they prefer what they have. I can't change that. Ammunition, you know, what we did do is we did it so I get a bulk rate. I go into local vendor and I say I need this much ammunition. If you give me a bulk rate, he gives me a bulk rate on what I need as a whole for a certain number.
Yeah.
And on holsters and everything else, we have to provide ourselves. All uniform and uniforms town provides. All belts and duty stuff from there, each person provides themselves.
I don't have a problem with them being able to have those weapons at the moment. We can just,
If we had a unified carry that the town would like to purchase, by all means, we can do that. Right now, it's what the guys have or what they afford or what they've purchased throughout
Yeah,
their
but
time.
if the town purchases the guns, you guys can't put them on your regular carry permits because you guys
Correct, we'd have
can't
to carry.
purchase a gun on your shield.
We can purchase.
You
a
can,
weapon.
but then it has to be the property of the town
if
of
the
Amenia.
town, you'd have to
And you can
purchase
only
that.
use it in the town of Amenia.
Correct. So, best interest for you, let us purchase our own, keeps you guys, you know, from having to purchase other stuff, and we just purchase what we can carry, you know, what we'd like to carry personally.
that makes sense to me. I'll second that motion.
By all means, Mike, if you'd like to have a conversation, we could.
Yeah,
big
no,
deal.
I would want to sit down with you guys because you have all the records too, right, Dawn? All the pistol permits and everything?
They're all in their employee folders, but
Okay.
as we've discussed, I do maintain an additional copy because at nighttime, if something ever, if there was ever a need for an immediate, quick, let me pull it out when I have their training, you know, I would have it right there should something happen in the later time.
Now, I mean, should what we're authorizing, should we authorize that exact gun with serial number?
That's no big deal, I can get you a serial number.
But you understand what I'm,
This is what we've done since 2008, so I know that you have this was written by Michael Hayes, our former attorney. So every year I've only changed.
I mean,
so
Chris, if you're
understand you
willing,
don't like what
sit
we
down
had.
with me. and,
Absolutely.
You know, we'll
But-
figure it out and,
They
you
were
know,
there every Tuesday.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, and by chance, if you did need serial numbers, you know, like she said, this is from Michael Hayes. we
yeah,
could
I
get
mean,
you-
I'm
we
just,
could get- We could get you serial numbers.
my,
That's
my
no
big thing
deal.
is liability, you know, and that's what it comes down to. And, you know the guns are form fired and everything else now, and, you know, I mean, do we have those records? Who knows? And,
I mean, I keep their training records for you. I know we've had this discussion once before. You know, I only do what Byron has suggested, and it's been continuing since. So I make sure our insurance carrier is happy with what our constables are doing. I go through, I make sure all their training is in. It's not my responsibility, but I kind of took it on as court clerk over the years. I just made sure all the constables, I started with when we had Leon Vincent, and then I had George Wesley. And then now that we have, you know, these officers, I've just kind of maintained that same status quo with them, ensuring everything was up to par. I would never present a resolution to you if I knew that they weren't trained. I was here the day that the officer was training them. I ensured I got.
Dawn,
that
I'm not
copy of
questioning that, I'm just questioning,
No, but
you know,
for
that we
serial
have the
numbers and
records.
stuff, I don't think that's something that we should be reading out in public if you want to read.
I
it.
agree with you 100%, but Chris's Glock 23 40 caliber, now someone finds a Glock 23 40 caliber out in the parking lot, is that Chris Klinger's?
Well, and that's
Ye-
why we have a great, you know, Dutchess County Sheriff's Department, New York State Police Department that would go ahead and do the proper.
But you
investigation.
understand what I'm saying? We
I
know
do,
the serial
but-
numbers and everything
For
else.
town record, we can put the serial numbers in.
I mean, it,
Public record, I don't want it out. Town
no,
record,
definitely not.
we can
I
put the
agree with
serial
you
numbers in.
100%.
I don't think that would go on this resolution.
I agree with you 100%.
But no problem with that. We
We'll
can
sit
do it.
down, Chris, and
Absolutely.
figure it out, all right?
No problem.
Thank you.
So to confirm, Mike, you're making that? I know you read it aloud. It was number 43, you're making,
Yeah.
and Steve, you're seconding? Councilman Delango?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilman Perotti?
Yes.
And Supervisor Perotti?
Yes.
35, motion to execute Resolution 2 of 2015, adoption of the investment policy. Whereas the town of Amenia is required by New York State law to have an investment policy regarding such funds as it collects and administers throughout the year. And whereas the New York State Controller's Office has provided towns with an approved investment policy as a guideline to adopt, and whereas the town of Amenia wishes to comply with the law and the Office of the State Controller's guidelines, be it therefore enacted that the town of Amenia adopts the attached investment policy to take effect immediately. And I make that motion?
Second.
Supervisor Perotti?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilman Perotti?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
And Councilman Delango?
Yes.
Motion to execute resolution number 3 of 2015, adoption of MU-1 schedule. Adoption of MU-1 schedule, resolution number 3 of 2015. Resolved by the town board of the town of Amenia, hereby adopts the records retention and disposition schedule MU-1, issued pursuant to Article 57-A of the Arts and Cultural Affairs Law, and containing legal minimum retention periods for local government records, and it is hereby adopted for use by all offices in legally disposing of valueless records listed therein. Further resolved that in accordance with Article 57-A, only those records will be disposed of that are described in the Records Retention and Disposition Schedule MU-1 after they have met the minimum retention periods described therein. And only those records will be disposed of that do not have sufficient administrative, fiscal, legal, or historical value to merit retention beyond established legal minimum periods. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the town board hereby adopts the Records Retention and Disposition Schedule MU-1.
I'll second that.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilman Perotti?
Yes.
Councilman Delango?
Yes.
Supervisor Perotti?
Yes. Okay, Supervisor 2015 goals. Number 1, choose a highway garage building site and move forward with financing and construction. 2, make key decisions regarding the heating system and boiler upgrade, whether to change from steam to hot water for greater energy efficiency in order to proceed with Morris Associates' proposal and financing. 3, move the trail to the train to final design with financial planning so construction can begin in 2015. 4, build a commercial kitchen with architects' donated hours plan going forward with grant applications to foundations and other monies. 5, restore the Amenia Town Hall to heart-safe status by providing CPR training to update current certifications. Town board comments?
I'd say in going through all of the town employees and their salaries, I just welcome us working together hand in hand to achieve the goals. I think all of the goals that Supervisor Perotti mentioned just now are all good. I think, wastewater, like you mentioned, Mike, is still a very important priority for this town. I'd like to see all of us involved and helpful in making Silo Ridge the best project that we can all be proud of, and make it a successful conclusion in the coming years. And I just think that we have a really, really good staff, and I appreciate all of the extra work that everybody puts in to make community events like the Holiday of Lights and other beautification works in the town come to fruition. I had my niece visiting over the holidays and was very pleased and proud to drive her around and show her the many, many things that have been parks, little pocket parks down by Pollingcorp, the potential of the rail to the trail to the train, the restoration of the Gridley Chapel, whether it's town sanctioned or not. We're here to help community groups. We're here to help facilitate in whatever ways. This is your town hall. You paid for it. You're paying the heating bills. Come on in. Let's find ways that we can make your goals, your recreation, your quality of life enhanced. And I just really appreciate everybody working together and moving these projects forward on time, on budget. I think that's our role here, is to support Victoria Perotti and seeing the vision, helping her navigate the vision, and making sure that we meet our goals as effectively as we can, as efficiently and cheaply as we can.
Okay, I have some things I'd like to see us do this year. I think it's important, you know, we were looking at the zoning changes. We need to have something concrete in place for our mobile home parks. We need to have something concrete with the junkyard law. But, you know, if we're going to do something like that, I think we need to take a look at our zoning code. And I would like to, one way to preserve open space and one way to keep the character of the area that we live in is to have defined areas where we have job growth and the ability for an office, commercial, or a light industrial area. And my view on that is the perfect location for that is the Taconic DDSO site and the area surrounding it. I think that that's an area we need to kind of take a look at as far as looking at how we can zone that in a way that encourages job creation and job growth in our community. It's great what Silo Ridge is doing with their project. They've already provided jobs for people within the community, but you know, it's great that we're having a resort community being developed, as Amenia has had a history of being a resort community when Lake Amenia was present. But we also need to provide jobs for the people that live here. And we also need to get tax base for the people that live here. And in order, I think a good idea would be to utilize and maybe make some alterations to the MCO district down there by the Taconic DDSO and utilize that area for what it is meant for, which is to provide jobs for the community. And also focus on enhancing our hamlets. And I think that working together, we can achieve all of that. And I believe that the supervisor has done a great job as far as cleaning up the mess and that we've had, you know, from a fiscal standpoint and an organizational standpoint, and how we take and keep our records and how we manage our bookkeeping. And I think the other goals that she has established and read tonight is a good starting point. If we can continue that, I think we'll be in good shape. But the key is that we need to work together, and I'm pledging tonight to do that. And I firmly believe in transparency and an open government, and maybe reaching across the aisle, so to speak. I know that there are people that are concerned about the environment and the wetlands and the things of that nature, and that is important. And so what we need to do is we need to come to common ground, and I'm hoping that we can get beyond the past, where people have been doing things to stifle growth and the distrustfulness that I've noticed. I've lived in this area my entire life, and I believe that we have a great diverse population here. people coming from all walks of life. And I think for the upcoming year, one of my goals is to try and make things better here for the people in the town of Amenia. And I think one way to do that is to really look hard at increasing the size and location and giving us a definite location for our light industrial office retail, our office zone. And let's take a look at our retail too, the hamlets, and possibly maybe trying a different way to get us a more walkable community and getting that sidewalk done to Freshtown. Thank you.
I agree with a lot of what Steve is saying. We do need growth, and we do have to do the growth consciously and making sure that it's right. I don't agree with you about the light industrial and factories and stuff like that. New York State is just not friendly to those type of businesses, especially Dutchess County. We're still in the MTA area. So, I would love to concentrate on what we do have, the beauty of the towns, the natural surroundings, the major thoroughfares that we have, the train stations. So, I would love to, put all this stuff together in the upcoming year and actually sit down and figure out what our good points are, what our strong points are, what our bad points are, and capitalize on it. Again, no. I love the idea of everybody working together. A couple meetings ago, I said I wanted to put a committee together involving the zoning boards, the planning boards. That's in the works. I have most of that set already. Steve, I'm welcome for your help. You reached out and you said you want to help. The more hands, the better. The more heads, the better. Again, I just want to, work together as a community and as a board to get things done. Not just sit here and mull over things and talk about them. And, I actually want to get things done, get things moving like they have been in the past year. I just want to keep up the momentum and actually start to spearhead some of these big issues that the town does have. Thank you.
For my part, I would like to hear people speak about working together as a board as opposed to individuals trying to put things through without any discussion or conversation when it's required that they put things through as a board. That I think we will be stronger as a town if we do that. The next thing is I would like to see the information come out for these meetings in advance so people have time to read through them and really understand what they're voting on when it comes time to vote. For example, this evening, we all voted yes for a motion to accept the Town of Amenia Rules of Procedure Committee Guidelines and Procurement Policy. And the thing in there says that everything we vote on has to be voted with the word aye or nay. And we all sat here and we voted yes and no. So it would be really super great, I think, if we could just go ahead and read and pay attention to what we're voting on before we vote on it. I'd like to see more of that this year. There were some issues brought up by John Fenton regarding lawyer contracts that he had questions about. And I want to know if the board needs to discuss this in executive session or if this can be handled in open session.
Well, as far as that particular lawyer contract, there's no prior contract that's on record with the town clerk's office, and there's also no money budgeted for that particular amount in that contract.
So the 2014 portion that he said that there was monies that were spent of that amount with the retainer
I don't
to
know
that.
what line were they spent from, because he doesn't have a lawyer line.
No, I know the whole lawyer line goes into one thing, but David said he had the contract on that.
What I'm
why
saying is that there was no contract last year filed with the town clerk. The only contracts we had filed with the town clerk are for the zoning board of appeals and the planning board with David Everett.
Okay.
We have no prior contract.
I'd ask you, Victoria, to follow up with David and get a copy of whatever contract he had then. I don't think he would say that he had a contract if he...
I already sent him an email and asked him
didn't?
for it. And as far as there being money budgeted in the line, the budget is done. I mean, we had several budget meetings. John Fenton was one of the department heads we met with. He never mentioned it, never came up. It's not in any worksheet that he handed in.
Mm-hmm.
So this information is being sent after the fact.
Isn't there a $13,000 line, though, in the...
For planning and zoning contracts that we approved and signed already last month.
And that's why, I sent the email. I was wondering why that particular contract with Mr. Everett wasn't included in that.
Because I didn't have it. And it wasn't, and Dawn does not have a prior contract on file. We looked.
I don't have a contract with Mr. Everett regarding him using being used.
I mean, was there a contract? I
Not
mean,
that we
would,
can
And it was
find.
never.
would
turned
Mr. Everett lie and say that there was a contract last year and there wasn't one?
He said there was a contract with the planning board and the zoning board of appeals.
I mean, from what I understand, it was the same, the contract that the zoning administrator produced late was
Well,
the same one as last year.
I know, but it was never given to the town clerk to be filed, recorded.
I mean, I
never-
do
I
have
never
an
saw it
email
last year.
from John Fenton. I mean, he asked me to read it if this came up. Now, I'm just reading what John Fenton's writing. I, John Fenton, Town of Amenia Building Inspector, am unfamiliar with this contract process and procedure, and I have never been advised of such a policy. That's just what he wanted me to read, why we're here, so it would get into the
What
minutes.
policy? That there has to be a contract?
Victoria, this is what he
that
asked
he
me to
has to
read.
report to
Excuse me.
his
This is what
boss?
he asked me to read. If you have questions, you should address him,
Well, if
okay?
he has questions, he needs to address us.
I agree with you
He also
100%.
needs-
He also
But
needs to
I
show up
know-
for his
hey!
reports. He also
Excuse me,
needs- Don't yell at me.
don't talk over me. You have your chance. I give you all the respect, Steve. Don't talk over me. Thank you.
Whatever.
So,
Whatever.
there was never a lawyer, the building department never used a lawyer?
No.
Not
used
specifically
the court's
assigned to
lawyer.
the building department. None of the prior building inspectors had a lawyer. They used the town lawyer.
All right, so all the times that John contacted Dave Everett on a lot of these matters with Silo Ridge and everything else, he doesn't have a line for that?
No.
So where did that money come from?
Planning and zoning.
It got pulled out of, I guess it got pulled out of the general lawyer line. But there is no contract in place
I
that
mean,
we have on record that there was a contract between the code enforcement officer and Dave Everett.
I mean, I would like to see, if the contract wasn't with Dawn, does that mean that there just wasn't a contract because you don't have it, Dawn?
No, but
There could have been a contract.
if there was a contract between Mr. Fenton and Mr. Everett, Mr. Fenton doesn't have the authority to sign a contract.
No, the contract would have been signed by the supervisor.
And it was never furnished to me. And during the months of, ending October and beginning of November, when all the officers were working together getting me that list, when I presented to you guys the list in November, not one board member made mention to me, Dawn Marie, hey, we're missing one. Prior
Okay.
to Mr. Fenton, the former individual in that department processed his own tickets and moved forward and never had to use the attorney.
Okay.
What happened was when we had Gail Zelazny, he did lean on Gail. And the first year when Bill was still here as supervisor, I said, these bills are coming out of the justice court line. All of last year, when Mr. Fenton utilized Gail Zelazny, it came out of the justice court line. And that should have
Okay.
been brought up when a resolution was done and you noted that the justice court line went out. So when each of these board members here are reviewing those bills, you'll see, because I asked Gail to please break it down. because it wasn't right. So you'll see
Okay.
when she spent time, here is the court.
All right, well,
and
what
when
we're
she
talking
spent
about
time-
right now, we're talking
Now
about
he
Dave
wants to
Everett's
use Mr.
contract.
Everett.
So now, was there a contract, whatever?
There's no
Because I
filed
know
contract
last
with my
year,
office.
we talked to Dave Everett on a lot of things.
Absolutely.
through the
I
building
used him.
department.
You did use
So
him.
I can't imagine that Dave Everett did it for nothing.
No, he did it out of planning and zoning.
All right, but, so if that's the case, technically, we're taking money from the wrong line to pay for something.
From 2 lines.
So, I mean, is that something that has to be rectified? Does there have to be another line? Does something like this have to happen? I just can't see a lawyer saying that there was a contract last year, now all of a sudden there's no contract.
When Mr. Everett provided the contracts to Larissa, and then they were furnished to me when I presented them to the board, at that time, if there was a contract, my response when I was asked this evening about it, I said it should
From
have
what
been
I
given
can
to me.
understand that happened, if you look at the emails and the contract, it was dated November 13th. I think the contract fell through the cracks, and it didn't get put in with the budget process, just like everything else.
Budget
Now,
process starts-
why
It
is
did
that?
not, it wasn't given to
September.
me, and it wasn't given to Dawn.
Victoria, you didn't
My
know
question-
about a contract?
My question
No.
is why wasn't it mentioned when he was here before us? That's when he should have presented it to us.
Steve, I don't
He was
know.
here before us, he was so
So then
interested- he
why
was
don't we
more
pull
interested
him
the
in
truck
and ask these
than-
questions?
But
But you do have an attorney on record, you do understand that, you have Denise Fitzpatrick, and you guys voted
Mm-hmm.
to get already this evening. So if he's looking for guidance, you guys do have a town
But
attorney. It would
honestly,
be
Dawn Marie,
Denise.
I think there's a lot of stuff that goes on with that building department that Denise is not up on.
Okay.
All right, and that's why Dave Everett is being used. That's why the planning board uses Dave Everett, that's why the
But are
zoning
you
board
looking
uses
for
Dave
Dave
Everett.
to be used as a special prosecutor, or,
No, I don't know why you're coming up with special prosecutor.
because that's what, when it was mentioned within.
But that's not the
Okay.
contract that we're talking about. We're talking about Dave Everett's contract. We're not
Yeah,
talking about the...
I
Planning and
asked-
zoning,
when I
there's no
asked
such one
for-
building inspector.
when I asked for all the contracts so that we could renew them for the consultants, the only 2 I had from Dave Everett was for zoning board of appeals and planning board of appeals. I had nothing that mentioned, until that email appeared out of nowhere.
Because
that
John
mentioned-
sent it to me, and that's when I forwarded it to you on December 31st.
And this is where I have a little trouble
But
with
that
this.
email from John is dated November 13th.
How come
I
he didn't?
have no idea
She-
what that's
The
about.
supervisor is his direct report. Why is he not
The
communicating?
board is
The
his
board
direct
is his
report.
direct report.
That includes
Well, he
you.
didn't
That
give it to the
includes
board.
me.
And he
He
didn't
should
give
be
it to the
CCing
board,
all of
and I
us.
agree. So
He
let's
gave it
take
to
him out back
nobody.
and give him a spanking. But,
Are
you
you
know,
reading a legal document into the record tonight? Is that your
No.
plan? to do
No.
that?
Absolutely not.
no.
We are simply having a conversation that has really nothing to do with the reorg agenda. It was brought up, as far as I
As
know,
part
as
of
a
public
question.
comment.
As
that
part of
Gretchen
my
had as
town
part of
board
her report.
comment,
It's
Yeah.
part of public comment from a board member.
Board member.
board member.
I mean, it's just, if we used him last year, and money was, he had to get paid, where did he get paid from?
He got paid from his line from the planning, because what happens is that the zoning enforcement officer works on issues that have to do with enforcing
zoning.
decisions that have been made with the planning and zoning. So
Okay.
that, when those issues arise, it would behoove the zoning enforcement officer to talk to the attorney who's involved in that. I don't see any problem at all if the contract, what do we want John Fenton to do? And what I think we want him to do is to do the most efficient thing with our taxpayer dollars. He's coming out of the correct line. We only have money. He only reports, Dave Everett only works for the planning and zoning. That's the lines that he would take out of for the attorney line. And when the zoning enforcement officer has a question, he absolutely should go to them. It doesn't make any sense for him to use anybody else. So it's coming out of the correct line. We're doing what we're doing. I don't believe we've ever had a contract with the zoning enforcement officer. He
Never.
has he goes to the attorney that is most useful for that particular case. Don't dance around and try and box him into a particular attorney. Each of our attorneys have special knowledge. They are working for the town board, in Denise's case, so if the issue has to do with some of our issues, then that's he should talk to, and he should have full use of it because his time is valuable. Our time is valuable. He needs to go to the attorney that he needs. If it's to do with a general town board matter, he'll take it out of the town board attorney's line. That's Denise Fitzpatrick. He doesn't need a contract with Denise. He doesn't need a contract with David Everett.
No, he doesn't.
He needs to be capable of
So,
doing
I
what he
mean,
needs to do.
where did the contract come from?
I don't know, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't
I
matter.
have no idea.
It
I
absolutely
didn't
does
see it.
not matter. Because we're not signing a contract with, it's
Not
ridiculous. If we did it in error, and I don't believe we ever did, I believe he got mistaken, or maybe he wanted a contract with our zoning enforcement officers. It's not happening, as far as I can tell. None of us are for it. So
No.
why do we care what, David Everett wants us to sign? It doesn't matter. We're not signing it. He needs to work with David Everett. The zoning enforcement officer needs to work with the lawyer
With
who's
whoever
going to
wants
answer his questions in the most efficient and knowledgeable with the expertise that they have. They're different lawyers with different expertise,
So,
with different lines.
Victoria, David's going to forward the 2014 contract to you,
If there is one.
if there is one. Dawn Marie,
But it's done.
Dawn
If there
Marie,
was one.
excuse me, Dawn Marie, if you could pull David Everett's billing charges for last year so we can see what line they went against. Maybe that will help us shed a little more light.
Planning, zoning, and escrow.
Yeah.
I can shed it right now. Because I also looked, because I was going to chart out how much was used out of the court line, just for my own entertainment purposes.
Mhm.
But that's where it all comes from. When he's utilizing Dave Everett, when he's utilized any of the consultants, it would come out
Comes
of
out of the
escrow,
appropriate
and then it goes,
lines.
planning and
Right.
zoning.
Right.
We don't need another
Efficiently.
contract.
Okay. Then his last question was, in regards to the special prosecutor, apparently there were some cases where that particular lawyer's expertise was necessary, and there were some things hanging on from the previous special
The
prosecutor
new prosecutor.
to the new one.
All he needs to
John's
do-
question was simply, does the new prosecutor have the
The new
files?
prosecutor is the one who has been appointed by the board, who's been appointed by DA's office, Bill Grady. That is who his new point of contact is, effective last month. So what he needs to do, and I know Victoria shared the contact information in the email.
He did. She did.
So
Yeah.
all he has to do is make contact with her, give her a copy of each folder, whatever cases he
Okay.
currently has going on, and we would proceed, just like
So-
you would.
I don't think that John knows he has to give the information over to the special prosecutor. Mike,
What?
How
could,
can he not
could
know
you, probably because no one's told him, but we'll help him out. Mike, could you let John know that he needs to reach out to the special prosecutor and give that person a copy of any files that they had open with the previous special prosecutor? And that should answer his,
What was he planning to do with them?
that should answer his questions.
Do with what?
He had some open issues that the
If you
special
have-
prosecutor was
One
working
prosecutor,
with.
special prosecutor resigns, we
Uh-huh.
hire another one, why is there a question?
Well,
It shouldn't be a
the
question.
question
I
was,
think
I
the
think the
biggest
question
problem
was
we have-
simply whether or not the new person had the information
the
that the
biggest
old
problem we
person
have
had.
is he
And they
doesn't-
just wanted
all he has to do is
continuity of
do it.
service.
I think the
Liaison is here.
biggest problem we have, we don't have procedures and policies in place on how these things get done. And he's been, for the last year, being told to do things one way. Now, all of a sudden, things have changed and it's another way. I mean, I was personally in some meetings where you said, Victoria, you have a line, use Dave Everett. I was there. So, I mean, if that line is non-existing, it's non-existing. We have to have another way to do it, you know?
With their,
I mean, maybe I don't
Dave
understand
Everett's
lines.
line is, I mean, you voted on the contracts. There's two for Dave Everett. There's zoning and there's planning. If he has a question, a zoning or a planning question, then he needs to go to Dave Everett to ask. He doesn't need a separate contract. I mean, there's no question about what line. If he does it, we get the bill, we approve it, we pay it. I'm not understanding what the problem is.
I mean, I guess I don't understand what the problem is either.
Nothing's changed.
What's
That's
kind
the
of
way it
bothering
has
me
been
is
since he
if we have a
came.
lawyer that we're using and he says we had a contract and we didn't have a contract, that's a little
That's what the problem is.
disconcerting to me also. You know, I mean, that's an issue. I mean, if
The only
there's...
thing I saw he was referring to as to having a contract is zoning and planning.
Well, all contracts go to the clerk, so
I know.
we'll get it fixed for the
All
next
right,
year.
well,
So,
Well, we'll wait to hear back from David and see what it is. That was signed last year, apparently.
well, nothing was presented for the budget this year for him to have a separate contract with Dave Everett, so it's not going to happen.
okay.
Well,
And if
We
he
should
needs to
probably
use Dave
vote on it,
Everett and
but
it's
yeah.
part of zoning or planning, it comes out of that line.
Right.
Okay.
Which is what he's been doing right along, so I don't know what changed. And as far as a special prosecutor, if you change special prosecutors, you just take whatever information you have and you present it to the new special prosecutor. I don't understand why that is such a hard thing to figure out. If someone's gone because they ran for town justice in the town of Pauling, they sent us the copy of the law saying, I cannot legally do both. So we hire another special prosecutor, so the case is moved from one special prosecutor, who's gone, to the new one.
All right, and I agree with you on that, but was he informed that we changed special prosecutors?
no.
Steve, you're laughing. If you don't know you have a new lawyer, how do you know who to go to? I mean, was he informed? Again, policy and procedure. We change special prosecutor, a memo goes out or an email goes out to all department heads. We have a new special prosecutor. These are the contact numbers.
Maybe if he attended the town board meetings and gave his
At
report
$20,
like he's supposed
at 20
to.
hours a week, Steve? At 20 hours a week?
Well, he does.
Well, if he was local
he
and
does
didn't live in
do it.
Wappingers,
So get rid of him then and find a building inspector from town.
So he has.
You know, you got answers for everything
I
sitting
have
there.
no
So
problem with that.
you
I
bring
have
up
no
all
problem
these
with
things.
finding- I don't
Get
have no
some
problem.
solutions. You bring up these problems, and every Thursday at the meetings, you say these problems, and you're non-existing for 2 weeks.
Solutions.
I've sent you
Solutions.
email
Solution
after
number one.
email
Enough.
to
Solution
answer me,
number one.
and you never even answer me.
Okay, Mike.
Be the man. Stop. You're out
Okay,
of
Mike,
order,
you know,
not
I know,
the-
I'm out of
I know
order.
you're trying to run for supervisor and trying to
All right, that's
cause
enough. That's
controversy.
enough.
I'm
That
done.
is enough.
You're done? You've been done, Steve.
I've been
You've been done.
See this
Steven,
uniform?
sit down.
I did my ride time today.
Okay.
I'm working on becoming an EMT.
Okay,
To
Steve?
try and help the community.
So what does that mean? I've been in this community for 21 years with a business, Steve.
I've been here my
My
entire
blood, sweat,
life.
and tear goes in this town. Why do you think I'm putting up with stuff like this? To try to make it better. And I'm not saying anybody's doing anything wrong. It's just things, we need policies, we need procedures, so stuff like this doesn't happen.
What do you think?
Because one person is one thing, the next person is another thing. It's the way this town runs. There's a different set of laws for different people. We have to be Steve, run a business in this town for 20 years and you'll see the different laws.
Is there any public comment?
Yeah, my family had a dairy farm for here much longer than 20 years. And
Okay,
yeah,
where
there
was
are
the dairy
different
farm?
rules.
Steven, enough.
Where was the dairy farm?
You know what? It was in Amenia too. We owned the
Where was
Palmer
the dairy farm?
Okay.
And
All
we
right,
got
Stephen.
railroaded just like everybody else.
Steven, enough. Both of you, enough.
I know this.
Enough of everything.
I have an announcement.
I mean, this
I
is,
have an announcement.
I'm not done.
Okay.
The last question the CEO had was regarding access to the town attorney. There was an email thread that went through on December 10th where the attorney referred Mr. Fenton. If he had any questions for the attorney, he should go to the town board. If we could clarify that that is the path he should take, Fenton to town board to attorney, or should it be Fenton to town attorney? I feel it should be Fenton to the town attorney directly. But there seemed to be some
so do I.
question on the part of the town attorney whether or not that could continue to be appropriate.
I'd be
So,
willing to make a motion that we authorize John Fenton, our code enforcement officer and building inspector, to access the appropriate attorney to resolve as efficiently as possible the questions that come up in his line of duties.
I'll second that.
Councilman Delango?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes?
Councilman Perotti?
Yes, I'll say yeah. Why not?
Supervisor Perotti?
Yes. Is there any public comment?
So I just want to thank the board. I know this was a little bit of a heated issue, but I appreciate us spending our time to go over it.
Is there any public comment?
Victoria, I have a comment.
What?
I won't be at the second meeting of the month, so I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank all of the voters for a successful 2014, and as I like to welcome everyone to visit the friendly and pleasant town clerk's office. You know, I have always said that the town clerk's office is the heart of the community. You come to my office when you're looking for information, when you're seeking a copy of a form, or if you're looking for old minutes, old resolutions, a birth certificate, and I look forward to 2015. With that said, I'd like to let everyone know, as I flip my hat from town clerk to tax collector, that today I picked up the taxes. They will be going out in the coming week. If you do not receive your tax bill by the end of January, by that time, they will be available on our website. At any point, you can go to www.ameniany.gov. On the right-hand side, it says View Taxes Online. Click the link, type in your last name, your parcel will appear, and on the top, it'll give you an option to pay your taxes online. So those that do not want to drive up to 4988 Route 22 and would like to do it right online with their credit card, you can do so. So, thank you.
Is there any other public comment?
Pay your taxes.
Can I read the note from Guy Castle and Lester
Sure.
Soroff? This was written on 12/16. Dear Vicki, just watched Channel 22 telecast of the Youth Theater Holiday Special. What a treat. As I told you at our new restaurant, I'm enclosing a donation to the underfunded dance program by our town budget for so many years. You have recognized the importance of the impact of this program has on the talented children and their parents. Thank you for your dedication to continue to allow the children to shine. Happy holidays, Guy Castle and Lester Soroff. I thank them for their very generous donation. They are helping us buy the backdrop curtain on the auditorium stage and t-shirts that made the kids all look so good in their final performance. I really, really appreciate their donation and all the foundations and grants that came through for these kids. I also thank the Millerton News and other newspapers that have helped promote, which helps us our ability to write for grants in the following years, each year. And thank you also to everybody who made the Holiday of Lights so very special.
And Vicki, thank you for all your work you put into the dance program. I know you only have 340 some odd days before the next recital, so good luck in this coming year with that.
Oh, and Bank of Millbrook, I did want to say thanks for the $25 cash certificates at both of the things. And I know Heather and Gretchen solicited a lot of donations for other raffle prizes, but really appreciate.
Well, actually, the enhancement chair, Kevin Cassone, did the solicitation for those raffles, but it was the businesses that really made it a successful event.
I just have a question. Are you carrying a weapon?
No.
Okay, good. Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn. There's no further business.
I'll second it.
Councilman Delango?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Aye.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Aye.
Councilman Perotti?
Yes.
Supervisor Perotti,
Yes.